Hi, this is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith with the National Police Association, and this is the NPA Report. I want to introduce to you today a fellow Illinois girl and somebody who has taken the most extraordinary grief that any wife can know and turn it into something amazing, something positive. And I was so excited when I got to meet her. And now I want you to meet her. Amber Oberheim, welcome to the program.
Betsy, thank you so much for having me on today. It means a great deal.
So Amber, you had the worst experience that a police wife can have. Something I'm a police wife as well, and something that we all think about, talk about, pray about, and but it happened to you in Champaign, Illinois. Talk about your husband Chris and the night that he was murdered.
Yeah, you're right. It's the thing that as police wives we all fear the most, and it happened. So Chris was a 20-year veteran of the police department. He went to work on May 18th. He always worked night shift, and he had a routine every night before he would go to work. He would find me and each of our 4 daughters and give us a kiss on the head and say, "Love you." And he did that. And, every night I would say, "Be safe," or "Be careful," or something to that effect. And he would reply, "Of course I will," or "Always," or something, along those lines. And so it was really like any other night. And I got a very aggressive knock at my door. What would have been maybe 4 o'clock, a little after 4 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as I looked out, I knew that something was wrong. I knew the officer that was on my front porch. And I opened the door and I said, "If you're here, it means something is wrong." And he said, "Yes, something is wrong." And so he proceeded to tell me that Chris was shot and he was alive and we needed to get to the hospital. And so I very quickly called, my dad, and told the girls very quickly, "Dad has been shot. I don't know anything else, but I need to get to the hospital." And so off I went. By the time I got there, Chris was in surgery, and I was there for maybe 20 minutes, and the neurosurgeon came out and said that he was sorry that Chris had a fatal gunshot wound to his head. And despite all of his efforts, there was nothing that he could do to save him. And in that moment, everything changed. Everything. Life as I knew it then doesn't exist now. It's changed in every possible way. My husband was a very good officer. He was a cop's cop, if you will. He was that guy. He was known to be very tactically sound, and he could handle situations in a very fair way, but take care of business, if you will. The incident that happened, as I understand, happened very quickly. He and his partner were called to an apartment building where there was a domestic disturbance that was happening. And it was a downstairs neighbor that had made the 911 call. And she said, it happens a lot, but tonight it's really bad. So we would like for you to get here quickly. Please get here quickly. And when my husband and his partner arrived on scene, they saw what they thought was the suspect coming down the stairs and sitting in his car. And so they approached him, said, "Hey, what's up?" Within 7.5 seconds of approaching the perpetrator, he started firing at them. He fired 9 shots and landed 3 in my husband's partner and 3 in my husband. And the only way that I felt like this could have been the outcome of a situation for my husband, knowing how good he was if he didn't see it coming. And that's more or less what happened, because his gun never left his holster. He didn't see it coming, and he really didn't have a chance to engage in that gunfight because it happened so fast.
So talk to me just for a minute about what kind of guy Chris was outside of the job.
Yeah. Chris was a very stoic man. He was very humble. He did have a servant's heart. He was the best father. We have 4 daughters, Hannah, Avery, Addison, and Aubrey, and the last 2 are twins. So he was the epitome of a girl dad. He loved having fun. His probably his favorite thing to do with our girls was to play softball. So he coached travel softball teams, some very successful girls travel softball teams for, my goodness, it was in the upwards of 13 years or more, and was currently coaching a team as well. And so we didn't talk a lot about police work outside of, him being on duty. I mean, if he was home, he was home. And we focused on having fun as a family. And, we love to travel. Chris and I love to cruise. That was our favorite vacation. He was a man of few words, but he was highly respected within the police department and within our community. He truly was a great man. And he was a wonderful husband. We had been, our first date was 23 plus years ago. And, it was, we have a lot of very, really, just really fond memories. We did a lot of fun stuff in those 23 years. And I sure didn't see us not having another 23 to continue doing, what we were doing. And so, it's been a shock in every sense of the word.
Right. And when a law enforcement officer is murdered, there's a flurry of activity with, media, and then, the funeral, and it sort of takes on a life of its own, I know.
Yes.
And then once that's all over, then here you are. And you made a decision to honor Chris and honor his profession, our profession, in a pretty amazing way, didn't you?
Yeah. That conviction came fast, and it came early. It was clear to me within 24 hours that this thing that we were experiencing, my girls and I, it really wasn't about us. It was about a lot more than that. And so keeping that in perspective, we made very conscious decisions, very purposeful decisions about the way that we were going to do things. Everything from Chris's services to what we're doing now. And, I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. I've done that for 18 years. I love my job. I love my patients. And I make a good living doing that. And it's crazy the way that, I haven't been back to my clinic yet. But I think that that's because this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. So, I look at myself every day and think, what are you doing? What are you really doing? Because, you're not paying yourself to do any of this. You're working more than you did as a nurse practitioner. And at the end of the day, this isn't in your wheelhouse, Amber. What are you doing? But the reality is I'm following God's lead. And it's been absolutely amazing to watch him work in our lives, to watch what's happening as a result, to see the power that you can have in a situation when you ask for help from God, what he's able to provide. And so that's what we're doing. We really are walking a faith guided life at this point. And we were faithful people leading up to May 19th, but I'm here to tell you that God intervened in a big way. And so people will ask, where does your strength come from? How do you do this? And I say, only by the grace of God and all of the amazing people that are around us. We figured out how to take what they give, internalize it, and use it, that day, the next day, and after a while, those days, you just chain them together, and here we are, 9 months later.
And that's the thing. Chris was murdered at a time when, 2021, at a time when American law enforcement was really under attack.
Yes.
And wrongfully. There is, a false narrative that somehow American law enforcement is the problem, that we are the ones that are a danger to our communities. We know that's not true. And, but when he was murdered, and I'm a fellow Illinois police officer, so I know, especially in the Illinois law enforcement community, I mean, his murder was such a gut punch to all of us. And yes. And then the story quickly went national. And so when you decided to form Peacemaker Project 703, I know one of your central goals is to bring more positivity
yes.
to law enforcement, to the community and their view of law enforcement. And I love your tenets: respect, service, family, and integrity.
Yes.
I mean, that right there says it all. But what are the goals for Peacemaker Project 703?
Yeah. So it became very clear that our vision was to promote our nation's positive regard and respect for law enforcement, because we live in a world that doesn't see things that way, right? You just alluded to that. And I've experienced that as a law enforcement wife over the course of the last 20 years, and just really been able to watch that roll out from when Chris first started in the police academy in 1999 until present day. And so we felt like someone needed to be a change agent for our law enforcement community. Our mission is to proactively support law enforcement officers and their families through community outreach, reform, and education. And we wanted to leave that open-ended so that there was nothing that we would be faced with that we wouldn't be able to fit into our mission. And so that's exactly what we're doing. On the day of Chris's funeral, all four of our girls and I spoke, and I didn't realize the impact that my words would have. One of the things that has been taken from that moment, one of the sentences that I spoke at Chris's funeral was, "It's time to start celebrating heroes and stop victimizing felons." And little did I know what was going to happen when I spoke those words. I mean, the entire the entire church stood and applauded. And I was left somewhat dumbfounded, like, what is even happening? And before I knew it, Betsy, that sentence was on memes and all over social media and on t-shirts and on plaques. And I thought these words were just words that were on my heart and on my mind. But what I quickly realized is that there's so much more support for our law enforcement officers than there is, people who are arguing against them. And I think what happened when Chris died is that the silent majority woke up, and I gave them permission and continue to give them permission to use their voice. Because when we use our voices well enough, we'll create action. And when action happens, we'll create results. And so that's what our foundation is about. Some people have taken my quote out of context. They've put assumptions and inferences in there that don't belong. I've had people tell me that it was something that was racist to say. And I said, there's nothing racist about my comment. We don't see things that way. We don't look at things that way. We don't see black and white. We see good and we see evil. And we're about the good. There are people that have said, that's a political statement. There's nothing political about what we say or what we do. However, we have been having conversations with lots of legislators about the things that we need to do in Illinois, not to mention, in the United States. So,
well, and that's one of the things with when we talk about politics, that's what the National Police Association, we talk about that all the time. We're not a political organization. We don't endorse candidates, all of that. But unfortunately, policing has been politicized, not by us, right? And not by you, the families, but it's been politicized to the point where we have to reach out and touch legislators, local, state, federal, county, all of them, to stop so much of what is happening, especially things like bail reform or no cash bail. People with multiple felony convictions or felony arrests that are still walking our streets, all of that, right? Do you guys get involved in some of that?
Yes, I have done that. I've been fortunate enough to be able to have face-to-face conversations with several of our Illinois legislators, as well as several from our national Congress, and they're good conversations. I was able to testify for Illinois House Bill 4191, which is that was last week. It's funding for officers. It's funding for, departments, for hirebacks, for incentives, for retentions, for equipment, for mental health, all of the things that law enforcement needs right now. We're having hard conversations with people that are difficult. But what I'm finding is that, honestly, we have more common ground in many cases than you would anticipate. We have more common ground than the media certainly would want to, to put out there. So I do believe that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and we're ready to run. So that's what we're doing.
Amber, what do you think Chris would think about all this that you're doing?
I think if he sat down next to me right now, he had this way of kind of putting his head down and just shaking it real slow, with a smile on his face at the same time. I think that would be the nonverbal reaction that I would get. And then if he had an opportunity to speak to me, I think he would say, "Go get him. Go get him. I got you." we need this,
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine he must be incredibly proud, and that your girls are involved as well, which is terrific. That's, for young people, there's a lot of pressure to hate law enforcement and talk about how we're bad and all of that stuff. And your girls are actually involved in the organization.
They are absolutely. And they've had a choice from day one how much they wanted to participate. And those girls have been right next to me the entire time. They love what they refer to as all of their aunts and uncles in uniform. That's one of them even said that, we inherited this huge family when our dad died, and that couldn't be more true.
Right. Absolutely. So where can people find out more about Peacemaker Project 703? How can they donate? How can they get involved? Where can we find you?
Sure. So we've got a website. It's www.peacemakerproject703.com. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram under Peacemaker Project 703. And I should say too, 703 was Chris's badge number. That's sort of implicit, but not everybody understands that. And Matthew 5:9 was his favorite verse, which is, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." And so that's where we came up with our foundation name, because
Amber,
peacemaking is what you all do. Really,
yep.
It's at the essence of what law enforcement is about. And so,
truly. Amber, I cannot thank you enough for spending some time with me today. And if you would like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Ma'am, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Last year, law enforcement officers were involved in hundreds of thousands of use of force incidents. A use of force incident is when an officer must use nonverbal tactics to gain control of a dangerous situation.
Put the knife on the ground.
In many cases, officers have no choice but to use force when a suspect doesn't comply with a lawful order.
Use of force is always ugly. No one likes it, especially police officers.
Together, we can help de-escalate these dangerous encounters. Help police officers by complying with their lawful orders. Don't attack, attempt to disarm, or flee from an officer.
Use of force is an officer's last option. Most incidents can be avoided by not resisting arrest.
If you feel you've been wrongfully detained by a police officer, then seek a legal solution after the encounter has been resolved.
Let's keep everyone safe. Comply now and complain later.